My friends, we gather tonight to tell the old story, a story of bitterness and betrayal, of despair, denial, and death. We gather tonight to tell an even older story, a story of love powerful enough to rewrite our endings. In the telling of the story, in the washing of hands and feet, in the breaking of the bread, in the standing at the foot of the cross, we draw near once more to Christ.
The first Maundy Thursday was filled with questions. Surely not I, Lord. Couldn't you keep watch with me for 1 hour? Why do we need more witnesses? Didn't I see you with him in the garden? Tonight we seek not to answer these questions, but to sit with them. We sit with them in the hope that in them we will find peace. In them we will find grace. In them we will find love. In them we will find ourselves. Come, let us worship God together. 13th chapter, verses 1 through 17. Now before the festival of the Passover, Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart from this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. The devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him. And during supper, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going to God, got up from the table, took off his outer robe, and tied a towel around himself. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was tied around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus answered, "You do not know what I am doing, but later you will understand." Peter said to him, "You will never wash my feet." Jesus answered, "Unless I wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "One who has bathed does not need to wash except for the feet, but is entirely clean. And you are clean, though not all of you." For he knew who was to betray him. For this reason he said, "Not all of you are clean." After he had washed their feet, had put on his robe, and had returned to the table, he said to them, "Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for that is what I am. So if I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I have set you an example, that you also should do as I have done to you. Very truly, I tell you, servants are not greater than their master, nor are messengers greater than the one who sent them. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them."
Of All the Ways, a poem by Reverend Sarah Speed. You could show up with sugar cubes and 2 plump oranges, delivering a pep talk as you hang your coat. You could provide a meal, filling the house with the sweet smells of rosemary and sage, lighting the candles, playing music through the rooms. You could leave rambling voice memos that start with, "Hey, it's me, I was just thinking of you," and carry on to share the details of your day. You could get eye level with the little ones, ask them questions like, "What should we put in your fort? And what's your favorite farm animal?" You could remember people's first and middle names, signs of an old school love. You could add your pronouns to your name tag and Zoom screen. You could cry with her when her dog gets sick. You could remember how he likes his cookies, soft or crispy. You could order Thai food and order extra sticky rice, because sometimes we just need extra sticky rice. You could drop off flowers. You could tell the waitress it's their birthday. There are a million ways to show someone your love. Foot washing was his. You are welcome during this time to go to a hand washing station up front where you'll have your hands washed, and then you can then in turn wash the next person's hand, or a foot washing station in the back where I will wash your feet, or you can remain in your pews in prayer.
A reading from the Gospel of Matthew, the 26th chapter, verses 17 through 30. On the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus, saying, "Where do you want us to make the preparations for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, 'The teacher says, my time is near. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.'" So the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover meal. When it was evening, he took his place with the 12, and while they were eating, he said, "Truly I tell you, one of you will betray me." And they became greatly distressed, and they began to say to him, one after another, "Surely not I, Lord." He answered, "The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him, but woe to that one by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that one not to have been born." Judas, who betrayed him, said, "Surely not I, Rabbi." He replied, "You have said so." While they were eating, Jesus took a loaf of bread, and after blessing it, he broke it, gave it to the disciples, and said, "Take, eat. This is my body." Then he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will never again drink of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." When they had sung the hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives.
A Blessing for Maundy Thursday by Kate Bowler. This is the night that it begins, the festival of grief and somehow triumph. The end is near. Jesus, we are beginning to understand that your grace makes no sense. Grace sits next to betrayers. Grace washes the feet of backstabbers. Grace breaks bread with the disloyal. Grace shares a cup with double dealers. Jesus, you are undoing every guarantee that in loving you, we will not lose. You are losing everything. Bless us now as we see your sacrifice, how you are pleading with us to love, as your friends break your heart, how you are showing us how to remember when we long to forget, that in your undoing, you remade the world. We stand at this table because it is an echo of another table. That table in an upper room in Jerusalem where Jesus sat with 12 friends. Friends who would betray, deny, and fall away from him. Friends he loved and laid down his life for. The story of God is always a story of faithfulness, of going through the hard times together, of God's yes being louder than all of our maybes. We remember how it all started. When God created the world, every precious, beautiful bit of creation, God's own artwork, including us. But we rebelled and did the one thing we were asked not to do, and we hid from God in the garden. We were cast out of that garden, but not away from God's heart. When we were slaves in Egypt, God rescued us and fed us with manna in the wilderness, brought forth water from the rock. God was faithful to us while we made idols and broke commandments. Again and again, God said, I am your God, and you are my people. God sent us prophets to call out our disobedience and to promise us that God is faithful still. In time, Christ came to walk among us, to show us just how far God would go to prove God's love for us. Christ read to us, sang with us, healed us, fed us, prayed for us, cast demons out of us, grew tired like us. And at the end, at the very end, gave us one last gift. During the Last Supper, Jesus took bread, broke it, and blessed it, saying, this bread is my body broken for you. Whenever you eat it, remember me. And after supper, he took the cup and poured it out, saying, this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many, so that their sins may be forgiven. As often as you drink it, remember me. We share in that bread and cup. So we take the bread and cup, tokens of God's everlasting faithfulness, and we pray that the Spirit would pour herself out on them to make this simple meal something holy, something to nourish and sustain our faith, something that still tastes like hope. Friends, this is the bread of life and the cup of salvation for you. It was the Last Supper, but not the last meal that Christ would share with his disciples. Because yes, our faithlessness would sentence him to the cross. And yes, the God who was bold enough to become human would die. And yes, the sky would darken and the temple curtain would be torn in two. But God was still faithful. And 3 days later, Christ would rise again, and there would be breakfast. A first breakfast cooked fresh right on the beach, to prove to us that nothing, not even death, can separate us from the love of God. God is faithful, so faithful, then, now, and forever. Amen. Will the servers come forward?
A reading from the Gospel of Matthew, the 27th chapter, beginning at the 27th verse. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the governor's headquarters, and they gathered the whole cohort around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and after twisting some thorns into a crown, they put it on his head. They put a reed in his right hand and knelt before him and mocked him, saying, "Hail, King of the Jews!" They spat on him and took the reed and struck him on the head. After mocking him, they stripped him of the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him. From noon on, darkness came over the whole land until 3 in the afternoon. And about 3 o'clock, Jesus cried with a loud voice, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani." That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" When some of the bystanders heard it, they said, "This man is calling for Elijah." At once, one of them ran and got a sponge, filled it with sour wine, put it on a stick, and gave it to him to drink. But the others said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him." Then Jesus cried again with a loud voice and breathed his last.
To Ask Why, a poem by Reverend Sarah Speed. To ask why is to break open your heart, to pour yourself out, to stare into the gnawing emptiness of the tomb, to peel away any layer of security, to walk on fire and stand in the rain. It's talking about the bad dreams after you've had them. It's courageous and vulnerable, painful and necessary. To ask why is to declare that God is God. To ask why is to say, "Be my God," even when, especially when, the world falls apart. In response to the word, you are invited to bring the sorrows and sufferings of the world to the cross. These can be personal, communal, or global. No matter the level of pain, God can hold it all. Because sorrow comes in many forms, we will bring our sorrows in a couple possible ways. One is by coming forward and extinguishing a candle up here on this table. Another way is to take a stone from this basket. I'm going to put it on this blue chair. Hold the stone, and as you come forward, drop the stone on the table and let it make noise. Or if you prefer, you can remain seated as you offer your prayers to God. So let us now offer our sorrows to God. And as we make our way to the cross, I invite you to join in singing the remaining verses of Were You There?